For all the latest community news and events.
103.2 Preston FM.
Your community, your radio.
Now, my first guest this morning, when I last met her here in the studio, what I do remember was the enthusiasm, how much she was loving her job, and I'm pleased to report, I'm sure by the smile on Jacky's face, that is still the same. And I'm talking about Jacky Hohol, who is a business connector and works with business in the community. Lovely to see you again, Jacky.
You too.
And for listeners who maybe didn't catch the last interview, tell us about the role of a business connector. You were seconded from a job that you were doing into the role of a business connector. So a bit of a lead in there for the listeners, but if you could tell us what it's all about.
Okay, so I'm seconded from Lloyds Banking Group to Business in the Community. And I'm the first business connector in Preston City. And it's all role to find out what the needs of the local charities are and to try to go source those needs from business, most of the time for free. So spend lots of time begging. I'm getting quite good at that. But also to focus on education and enterprise and employment as well, so to see what we find across the city and see what we can do with businesses to link people together. And it's about longer term sustainable relationships between business and charities.
So when you first came into post, I mean, did you discover that there was a kind of strange relationship between businesses and communities and charities? Was there suspicion there as to how it could work? Was there a kind of willingness to work together, but a kind of lack of understanding of how to bring it together?
Most businesses now are trying to be more socially aware and have a responsibility, but there's a real mix. You've got some amazing relationships across the city that probably won't ever be broken, with companies that have their chosen charity and do everything in their power to fundraise for them and support. But you also have a lot of businesses that would love to do volunteering and love to get out there and don't even know what's there or where to look. And it's finding the kinds of relationships for them that mean something to them personally and to their strategy. You know, as an example, you go to Carillion in Fulwood Barracks. They would love to volunteer, but they're trying to find veteran charities and things that are related to the military, because that means something more to them, and it's more likely that that relationship will be long-term sustainable. So it's finding the right partnerships and helping them as the middleman, because it's our day job, to go find the right people to pair them with.
And I remember that one of the things that you were doing was actually having people from business working out in the community and people from the community working within the business remit. Is that still the case?
It is. You will find some organisations where they'll try to get people apprenticeships and work placements. So it's finding opportunities for them wherever you can. We met with Kirkham Grammar School yesterday. You know, the grammar schools or the high schools are always going to need work placements for the year 11s when they do work experience. I'm sure I can find them some of those and, put them in touch with some of the businesses that would be very willing to take them on board. So it does work both ways, because Kirkham have said, we'll open the doors for you if you want to do fundraising, tell us what you want to do, and we're here.
So what have been the big challenges that you faced since you came into the position?
The challenges tend to be finding the right person to speak to in the business. If you go for a large corporate business, it can be quite tricky to get to the right person. You get there eventually, but it does take time, and it's finding people who already have these links and these connections to know who to call to get there quickly. But 6 months into the role now, pretty much there, I think. You always know somebody to call that might have the answer that you need. So we're solving things a little bit quicker.
So have you been able to awaken that social consciousness within quite a lot of businesses? And are we talking also maybe small businesses? Because there are lots of small and medium businesses around these days.
We are, and it's like I said earlier, they in the main want to do something but don't know where to look, or don't have the time to look, or can't find the time to go do the risks assessments, or they might have too many volunteers for a lot of the charities. Amy next week are sending 25 volunteers to St Mary's Church at Penwortham. Very few places could take 25 volunteers in a day, but those guys are going to be resurrecting the gravestones there that were pushed over because of health and safety, because they were unstable. So they'll be making sure all the holes are dug. They're working with a local charity called All Local Heroes, that's a veteran charity in Bamber Bridge, who put a plea out to me to find volunteers. So you now have a charity and a business working in a church for a day to try to fix the problem that the church has.
And just focusing on the businesses, I mean, what kind of feedback do you get? What do they say that it does for the business?
Oh, it's amazing. I've done it myself. Lloyd's give us a day per staff member to go out and volunteer, and it's called A Day to Make a Difference for us. And you have the opportunity to team build, to find out more about the people that you work with, because day to day you're far too busy to sit and chat and really understand the people around you. It's great social activity, and on top of all of that, at the end of the day, you've given something back. And to see the significant difference that a team of people can make in just one day is phenomenal. It really does give you a good feel-good factor.
And who are some of the communities that you're working with?
So some of the charities at the moment, we've got Heartbeat is quite high on our priority at the moment. They're about to move their base into the old football museum. So we have Lloyds Banking Group giving them desks and chairs for that. We're still trying to get them a gymnasium from John Moore University. We'll find out early New Year whether or not we can get that. And they have a fashion show coming up to let people know about as well. So if anybody has any clothes over the next few days that they could use in a fashion show, that is at the end of next week. So they need them quite quickly. And again, that's fundraising for what they need to do there.
And I remember last time we met that we also discussed the fact that I think you'd been able to, between business and communities, we all talk about the waste of food from shops at the end of the day, and there was something very interesting taking place there. Just remind us of that, Jacky.
Well, that's taken a few steps forward over the last month. So Greg's, the baker, they had a lot of end-of-day food, and they get a collection mid-afternoon, and they leave them with sufficient stock to get them through to the end of the day. But even at the end of the day, there's often food left. And the staff didn't want to bin that. They knew that it could be useful in the community, didn't know how to go about getting it to the right place. And obviously there's a lot of food hygiene rules around how you actually do that. So we set up a pilot in Preston that Greg's would supply their end-of-day food one night a week to Love Preston, which is a drop-in centre. On the second week they did that, I heard from the charity that they'd fed 92 people that night from the 4 Greg's stores. Greg's wanted to see then where their food was going. So they took a trip to Love Preston, they watched the drop-in centre, they met the people that came in there, absolutely loved what they saw. The people there were so grateful for what they'd given them. So they were doing a collection of clothes to be able to donate clothes to the drop-in as well. And then on a Monday night now, we also had the Merryweather Centre, which is a home for homeless 16 to 24-year-olds or about to be homeless kids. And they pick up one night a week now just from one of the shops, just to make sure that those guys get breakfast each day. It's good.
That is really an achievement, isn't it? Because we often read and people often talk about the wastage of food from shops at the end of the day. And that, I take it, came about by bringing people together and getting people to talk to each other.
That's right. And also, as a result of Greg's being part of business in the community, it did make it easier for me to be able to go through the right channels with them and get to the people who could make the decisions very quickly. And that's how it helps. So you might only have one person in a city, but across the country, the connections that we've got through other business connectors really do open some doors and give us some hints and tips on great ways to source what we need as well.
So what are the other business connectors that you would really like to bring about? Who are the challenges out there for you at the moment then, Jacky?
Oh, my biggest challenge is Digging Northwest, which is the veteran garden. It's a therapy garden in the walled garden part of Ashton Park.
Yes.
And sitting next to that, they have an old building needing a lot of work that they want to turn into a community cafe. To do that would make that charity sustainable. So we can do that in several ways. We can go out and try and get all of the funding to pay for the whole thing. We could get part of the funding and talk to local business to see whether they would provide people and volunteers and resource. Or we could just go to local business and say, do you want a legacy? Do you want your name on this? And are you prepared to do it all? You choose the right business, you might find somebody to do that. So I talk about them all of the time. I am determined that by March, that community cafe will be started, or there'll be a plan in place to know that it's going to happen, because it would be brilliant.
I certainly hope so. We will follow you. We will follow you on this challenge then, because I mean, the Ashton Park is a big park. We, of course, have done interviews on Chat City with people from the park and from the walled garden. Yeah. And I mean, there's a quite large food outlet just round the corner, a supermarket. Yes. I don't know if you've approached the supermarket yet, because it would look good, wouldn't it? And they do have in the large supermarket on the docks, they do have a community worker there who works with community.
They do. A lot of places now have community champions.
Yes.
It's good to go talk to them. I think this one is so big, though, it goes way beyond that. It's finding the right people at the top. And I've done a little bit of that with the MOD and with Carillion and Amy. And it's, maybe those three companies would want to support veterans because they're all very military focused. There's still some work to be done. We're tapping away.
Right. Well, we shall keep our fingers crossed on that one. And what about young people in all of this, within the businesses and the community? Is this also a way of communication and improving communication about the issues for young people within businesses particularly?
There's a few things we've done with young people. We're part of something called The Challenge, and college students, just before the end of the summer term, were put into teams of people that they'd never ever met before and given the challenge to come up with a plan on how they would support the community. And they had to come up with new ideas on what they could do to give something back or to support a particular issue within the community. And so I played a dragon as a dragon's den for them just before they finished for summer. And then the week before last, they went onto the flag market in the city and tried to put their ideas into practice and see whether they would work. Great to go watch them. They then all met at the Healthy Planet, and myself and Peter Rankin, who I believe is on later, went to meet them all and see how it had gone and what that gave them with regard to their CV and their planning, and whether it opened any new ideas for them about what they wanted to do when they finished their education. Really good to see something like that go on. The other things with education, there's Preston Vocational Centre. We support them as much as we can. They educate and put young people on training courses and then try to get them apprenticeships following their training. And they have a massive success rate compared to other similar organisations. They do exceptionally well.
And from a community point of view, did the community actually make contact with you with the things that they need?
Very often, yes, and more so now as your name starts to be shared around. You only need to fix a few things and people want a little bit of that. So, the Millennium Centre is another good example of that at Fulwood on Red Sands Lane. We got a phone call from those a few weeks ago to say, come see us, we need some ideas, we need to do different things, we've lost some of our funds and we need to find ways of replacing it. So you go talk to them and you can give them a whole load of ideas that you've seen elsewhere or that you know know work at some of the very successful community centres, and we have other people doing similar roles across Preston that we can bring in and see whether they can add anything. So suddenly they're given the ideas to do things. You can't do everything for them, but at least you can support them with their planning.
So when you set out as a business connector, has this surpassed all the expectations that you had, or has the plan been as is now coming to fruition?
Well, it's way surpassed any expectations. You can never, ever, I think, imagine what this job can do and the amount of change that you can make as one person. Some of the friendships I've made will be for life, I'm pretty sure of that. You go home at night and you sleep well because you know that every day you've done something that does make a significant difference. So I'm around till March, and the first connector in Preston and business in the community will pledge to put connectors in place for 3 years. So it might not be a direct replacement the minute that I go, but there should be somebody here over a 3-year period.
And just remind us, there are business connectors throughout the country, in various parts of the country. Was it a government government initiative, this?
It's national lottery funded. So it's Prince Charles, one of the Prince's charities. Yeah.
And was there quite a strict criteria on the outcomes of what they wanted to achieve?
They would like to see change on enterprise, employment, and education. Those are 3 key things that they look at. But actually, community cohesion is the 4th area, where you're joining charities together and getting people to work more closely together, because there's so much overlap and so many things that the charities can actually do to help each other, but they don't know it, they don't realise, because they don't tend to speak to the other charities. And when you look at how they're run and the fact they're so reliant on volunteers and they don't have a whole load of people to go running around to find out, just having me around talking to all of them made some very, very easy connections, because you can immediately see where these people can work together. So yeah, those 4 areas are what we tend to focus on.
So that has been an interesting side of your role, is getting the charities to actually communicate with each other,
yes,
and presumably to identify what they already have that maybe they've not recognised that the other charity can help them with.
Exactly. There's quite a lot of that goes on. Dig In have the horticultural therapist, Space Centre need a sensory garden. Why wouldn't you put those 2 things together? Why would you go pay for that from a business when you could pay a small amount to a charity and keep them going? And that's just one example of many.
And the other things that are in the pipeline that you're working on at the moment?
We're looking for premises for Armed Forces Group. We put them in temporary premises earlier this year, but now we're working with Peter Rankin to see what's available through the council. We have Preston Environmental Forum needing volunteers this Sunday, if anybody's free to be at Morrison's on the docks between 10 and 4. And Preston Environmental Forum will grow all the plants that keep Preston looking good. So, for example, at the Corn Exchange, they use volunteers to keep that looking nice. So they've got quite a few events coming up over the next few weeks. I need volunteers for digging. So outside of their walled garden is a concreted yard that's quite overgrown at the moment. I need an army in there to clean that up before winter. And on the 19th of October, for Heartbeat, at Leyland Squash Courts, there is a fun run being organised by a sports coach called John Gibson. So if anybody's interested in doing that, that's on their Facebook page at the moment, and they just need £1,000 for Heartbeat, and John has just started to sponsor them. And there's 2 courts, one for adults and one for 7 to 15-year-olds. So if you've got kids that wouldn't mind joining in and doing a little bit of giving something back, that's probably one for them.
And you're also looking for a gazebo.
I am.
I understand.
We bought such a lovely gazebo in summer, and it lasted 2 events. A tornado in the middle of Avon Park took it away one weekend and left all of the lesser standard gazebos standing. It was only ours that disappeared. So, if anybody's got a gazebo of reasonable quality, cluttering up their garage now that the weather's gone a bit wet and windy, we would love to take it off your hands. Just get in touch.
So if anybody's got the gazebo, anyone wants to find out more about Business Connect, where's the best place to go, Jackie?
You can, my Twitter account is at Jacky Hohol, and if you have a look at BITC Connect online, and that tells you all about the programme.
Well, can I thank you for coming in this afternoon, and we shall look forward to following the progress on Ashton Park with you. That would be lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you. Bye-bye.
103.2 Preston FM.
Keeping it local.